Talamoana Exiles, I'm back. This is another interview from Gamescom 2023 done by a German Path of Exile content creator in English with Jonathan Rogers and Chris Wilson. Remember, Jonathan Rogers is the game director on Path of Exile 2, and Chris Wilson is the director on Path of Exile 1, and I think a voice on the series as a whole still. So a lot of people said this was far superior to the IGN interview. We're going to find out right now. Haven't watched any of it. Don't know what exactly we're going to find in here, besides the fact that it's better than the first one that I reacted to. Let's dive right in.
Be here and do this interview with you. And sorry for my bad English. My community hates me for my pronunciation. So, and it's my first interview as well. So,
awesome.
I hope you can understand me.
Sure.
I have a few questions, but let's start with some soft questions. How you enjoyed your first days in Germany?
Ooh, okay. So he's starting off with the easy questions. Okay, so we know we're going to get some tough ones. Also, his English is great, so he shouldn't feel bad at all. Nice job, man.
Well, Gamescom has been crazy so far. There are so many people, and it's been a back-to-back schedule of media interviews for us, and I'm looking forward to getting out on the show floor tomorrow to check out how the main Path of Exile booth is going, and Germany's lovely, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very nice.
Charismatic.
Obviously the jet lag is a little bit annoying all the way from New Zealand. We're opposite time zone. But other than that, it's
always
been very
the
nice
realist.
You already saw the Kölner Dom, Cologne Cathedral?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
Very
Okay,
nice.
nice. Okay, so let's start with a few questions because I think your time is very limited. So I like to start with some Path of Exile 1 questions.
Okay.
Can you briefly explain what future is for Path of Exile 1 when we are looking to the PoE 2 release, so the next month, and after the PoE 2 release?
Okay, awesome. So already we're actually talking about PoE 1. This guy is obviously a PoE 1 player. On his channel, I saw that he had a ton of content as well for Path of Exile. So this is not like the other interview in the slightest. This is someone who's immersed in the culture, knows the game, knows what people are talking about. Let's see what Chris has to say.
So our intention with Path of Exile 1 is to carry on basically what we've been doing so far, which is quarterly expansions that introduce new challenge leagues, endgame changes, metagame changes, and we're very cognizant of the fact that because Path of Exile 1 is a separate product from Path of Exile 2, we don't need to allow Path of Exile 2's ongoing development to affect Path of Exile 1 necessarily. We can make sure that Path of Exile 1 keeps evolving in its own direction, and we have staggered our launches of leagues, so the Path of Exile 1 will occur sometime after each of the Path of Exile 2 launches.
Right, okay,
meaning
we knew that.
If players want to, they can play the PoE 2 expansion and then come and play a Path of Exile 1 expansion maybe 8 or 9 weeks later in the 13-week cycle.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so they're just doubling down. That's not new. That's their position that they had at ExileCon, just reiterating it. Also, looks like Chris Wilson is growing a beard and a mustache. Looks good.
So PoE 1 and 2 will be separate games, and PoE 1 has ruthless mode. So can we expect some kind of more power creep, more broken mechanics in PoE 1 again, or is it like
I'll see the tattoos
like we had it in the last few leagues, so that there are not so many very broken combinations?
Well, I think some degree of power creep is inevitable. It's very difficult for us to not introduce content to the game that helps increase the power cap of players. And while we're trying to be mindful of it, we know Path of Exile has been out for more than 10 years already. It's got more than 10 years of life left in it. We want to be careful.
Whoa. Okay. You know, that's a triple down. More than 10 years of life left in it. 2033. We'll still be having Path of Exile 1 expansions. That's refreshing to hear. I haven't heard them give an exact timeline on that. So that really sounds like they're not planning on setting Path of Exile 1 expansions when PoE 2 releases, because a lot of people, at least in the comments that I've seen on my videos, on others' videos, on Reddit, believe that once PoE 2 hits, PoE 1 is going to be sunsetted within a year, 2 years. They'll put it into maintenance mode. They'll stop. Some people think it's in maintenance mode now. It is not. Look at Trial of the Ancestors. That is not a maintenance mode league. All the new items, the brand new gameplay, the Atlas mechanic, all great stuff right? It's not in maintenance mode. And it doesn't sound like they plan on putting it into maintenance mode once PoE 2 hits at all. 10 years of content from Chris Wilson. Okay, awesome.
To not have too much incremental power creep year after year, but certainly it's inevitable that players will continue to gain more power over time and find more crazy ways to play.
Yeah. We have now received a few new support gems in 3.22.
Yep.
Can we expect more major numerical changes to skill gems in Path of Exile 1 in the next upcoming leaks?
So in terms of numerical changes, I mean, broadly speaking, we do of course want to buff underused things, but for many of the ones we have at the moment, it's not really a matter of just changing the numbers. For those ones, we've done experimentation, and where we can change the numbers in a quick way, we've done so. Many of the ones at the moment that need buffs need a bit more of a mechanical rework or a bit of taking back to the drawing board and making better.
Well, we have time
and
for
that's something we've been doing in various ways. For example, we've been, overhauling ascendancy classes and so on occasionally doing gem reworks.
Totems. Ancestral totem reworks, please, for Melee. Please.
But we found that in some cases it's easier to introduce new options than to change too much about how an existing thing works, because even though the thing may feel underused, it's still being used by some number of builds, and we have to be careful to not accidentally ruin them as we improve it for the other players.
So if you want to change one gem, you want to rework it, right?
To be a lot better, yeah.
Okay. I understand.
Okay, so that's why there's not numerical buffs. Interesting position. So will we see more reworks in the future than we have seen in the past 2 leagues? I don't know. I'm really skeptical about that. We'll have to see what happens, but it's good that they understand that it's not just a numerical thing. Like, if they buff the numbers, okay, we'll deal more damage. Great. But will the gem itself actually be fixed? Will the play style be fixed? A lot of people will say that, right? Oh, buff cleave by 3x. Boom. Skill. I don't think so. It's just a boring skill and play style, right? There needs to be a little bit more variation to it. I get what he's saying. It's a very honest answer.
What's about melee?
Well, melee is obviously something we want to feel really good. Now, the tricky thing, of course, is to fundamentally make melee feel really awesome.
This guy, what's his name? Lowepe? What a question. Excellent interviewer. Love it.
You need to do the type of extensive work that Jonathan's team have been doing for Path of Exile 2 for 5 years now. And so we're in a bit of a difficult situation in Path of Exile 1 because we do not have all the new character rigs and all of the significant amount of animation work that's gone into Path of Exile 2. We still want melee to feel good, but this is going to require more of a Path of Exile 1 twist on making melee feel good.
What is that twist? What is that twist? Okay, so there's a twist. What is the twist? Is the twist coming in 3.23? I don't know. What could it be? Items? League mechanics? Like Crucible made melee weapons just... You could make some powerful melee weapons there, but I don't know. Interesting answer. I'm very worried about the animation and the rigs essentially being the sole reason why they can't fix melee in PoE 1. It sucks. But it looks like that's going to be the future of the game. I still enjoy melee for the most part. It was really tough getting Infernal Blow to work, though.
You started to rework the acts in Path of Exile 1 and
oh my gosh.
Suddenly stopped it. Is there a story behind it, or was it never planned to rework all acts in Path of Exile?
Lowepe, I love these questions, man. Excellent. Totally right. Excited to hear the answer.
So we make visual improvements where we can do if there's something that's particularly old. Some of the earliest acts in Path of Exile have been there, like we started the work on that in 2007. There's some very old assets, so we want to improve those as we can. And we also did a pass of making the campaign more challenging and difficult. Like we got through Act 1 and about half of Act 2, and that's something we were enjoying. I don't know if that's what the players want in terms of an act rework, is making it challenging and really scary, but we were enjoying that and the effect that it had on people's campaign playthroughs. There's a lot more we can do to finish that balance pass. It's just that it takes a very large amount of effort, and during that time we could of course introduce new skills or new metagame stuff that we think might be better received.
Okay.
Ooh, so probably not going to happen in the future then. That's unfortunate, especially because the players didn't seem to receive it well.
So one question I have asked myself a lot of times, how are league mechanics created? How how can you describe the process? So is it like you are sitting on a big round table and everyone throws in his ideas like a big brainstorming, or how does it work and how you get your thoughts from?
Honestly, there are so many different ways we come up with leagues. For a while, one of our favorite ways was to scroll through Netflix and try to find movie ideas that could become cool leagues. Like, it just inspires you. You know, you see a heist movie and think, we could do that, for example.
Okay.
And
I think it's the case with just about any kind of ideation. Like it's very hard to just sit down with with nothing and come up with ideas.
Yeah.
Like when I'm trying to come up with ideas for anything, I often just go to Path of Exile areas and walk around a little bit. And as I'm just looking at things, somehow it just inspires thoughts about other things. But yes, as Chris said, like, you know, you scroll down a bunch of movie posters, and like as you're looking at them, you're just coming up with things. And I think just it's a good way of brainstorming, just like looking at stuff in front of you and just letting ideas come from that.
Okay. How far away or how far ahead are leagues planned, set?
Ooh, so they used to do something where they'd stash away a ton of content, right, for future use. But a lot of it was done right as the league was supposed to come out, right? A few weeks before, a month or two before. I bet that's how it is now. I'm going to guess that now they build it and they ship it, because a lot of the resources are in PoE too. See, I don't know if that's the case.
We usually don't plan further ahead than the one that we're currently working on. So, for example, at the moment we're working on 323 that's coming out, towards the end of the year. We have no idea what 324 is.
323 will be out toward the end of the year. Awesome. I thought they'd push it to January again.
Like, I could tell you zero facts about 324, but 323 I could tell you quite a lot about.
Tell us a little bit about it. Come on, Lowepe. Push, push, push.
It's actually very important to do that, because if you plan things too early, then you can't respond to what the players' needs are. You're just kind of making something for like people who are already 6 months out of date. So it's kind of important to...
You know, I saw a Diablo 4 interview where they said, oh, we had Season 1 good to go when we launched Diablo 4. Bet they almost had Season 2 as well. Grinding your games is not like that. Not at all.
To be able to respond quickly.
Okay, amazing. Is there a simple reason why popular leagues like Sentinel and Ultimatum have not made it into...
Whoa, he's talking about Ultimatum? All right. Are we finally going to get a direct answer? Is it ever coming back, or is the Trial Master it?
core game yet?
Generally speaking, it's because we don't yet feel that the core game is ready for them. Now, with Ultimatum, maybe the game is a bit more ready. With Sentinel, we don't necessarily know.
Confirmation? Ultimatum 3.23?
That it fits in the core theme of Path of Exile, like, having floating laser robots following you isn't necessarily something we want in the dark fantasy, baseline game, but there are certainly elements of Sentinel we can wrap in, and for Ultimatum, I suspect you'll hear more news
Recombinated? Wait, what?
soon.
Okay.
Whoa.
Ultimatum, I suspect you'll hear more news soon.
Soon? Maybe it's in PoE 2? Or, finally, Ultimatum back in 3.23. Oh, that'd be so cool. Awesome.
Okay. Interesting. Last PoE 1 question. In case Path of Exile 1 doesn't have many players in a few years because PoE 2 is just bigger and I don't know. Have you given any thoughts to preserving the PoE 1 experience, like in a SSF offline mode or something like this?
I understand what you're asking for here. If Path of Exile 2 is massively successful and every player moves over there, then would we still continue to run PoE 1? But we would. It's
Yes, awesome.
very inexpensive to run an empty game server. Having said that, we do not expect it to be empty. We're going to produce some very high quality PoE 1 content, and we're honestly expecting that users will jump between the two games quite a lot. So
there's really no reason to ever need to shut down Path of Exile 1 servers if that's what you're worried about. Like that, I can't imagine a scenario where that would be something we'd choose to do, because as Chris just said, the infrastructure for it is entirely scalable with the number of players. So like if there's not many players, then it costs us nothing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay, you heard it here. PoE 1 is never going away. It will be here until we die or the world ends, whichever comes first.
Like if we're not worried about like having the service just running, and it uses the same backend as Path of Exile 2 does, so it's ultimately the same.
That's still crazy that they use the same backend. Wow, they just look so different. Such vastly different environments. Wild.
service, so it really there's not really any fixed costs we need to be worried about. Like, so long as Path of Exile 2 is running, there's no reason not to have Path of Exile 1 also running on the same backend infrastructure at the same time. So
I mean, for me, it's perfect. I can play Path of Exile 1, after a few months, Path of Exile 2, and go on all the year, all time. So,
This guy, I love him.
Okay. So let's move on to Path of Exile 2.
Okay, that was cool. So they had a PoE 1 segment, and I'm sure Jonathan is going to take the PoE 2 segment. Now, I think Jonathan will be the front man of PoE 2, just like Chris was the front man of PoE 1. That's really what they're aiming to do. You can see with the Druid gameplay video, Jonathan was the person narrating it, right? With the initial PoE 2 as a split game reveal gameplay video, Jonathan was the one narrating it. I really think he's trying to become more of a public figure, and I think he's done very well. Everybody has to remember, Chris Wilson is excellent at speaking publicly and speaking to the community and typing up responses, right? But these people were game developers first, communicators with the community second. Chris has gotten really good at it. He's an excellent communicator. Jonathan, I think, is already great. And I think he's just going to keep getting better and better the longer he's doing it. So just before we go in, I just wanted to say that. Don't blow it, Jonathan.
Questions. A closed beta is planned for June next year. How
I want to be in the closed beta. I can do it. I can make it. I believe.
closed it will be, so who can participate?
Whoa!
You should probably look at what we've done with past betas. Like if you look at 3.0 and how that was, there's probably quite a similar plan. Specifics I don't really want to go into too much, but you'll certainly be able to get a chance to play if that's what you're wanting to do.
Buy to play. Pay to win game. Not free anymore. Just kidding. Then you'll have to buy a supporter pack, probably at least the $30 tier, and then you'll get in. I'll do that if I need to.
There'll be ways, you know. So.
Okay, nice. And the scope of the beta, you can tell us anything about this?
So it's going to be the whole game. So there won't.
This is the way to do it. It's not a press beta. It's not a, oh, look at this game. It's so awesome. You can only see the little bit polished part of it, right? That's it. No. Full game. Test the hell out of it. Make sure it functions properly. Make sure that we are releasing a full product. And if we're not, tell us. Let us know what's going on. We're going to fix it. This is the way to do it. I absolutely hate the hypes surrounding betas. And the fact that they've just turned into another portion of the media circus. Just, oh my goodness, look, this game's having a beta. Everybody jump on. We want to be able to post how many millions of players played in the beta and they earned this cosmetic from the beta. Wow. We're going to have the biggest launch ever. A beta is meant to test a product. This looks like what they're trying to do for PoE 2. This is the right way to go about it. Good, guys. GGG again. And Lowepe, thank you. You have no chill. Thank you for asking these questions. You're rocking it.
It's not just going to be one act or something like that. There's really no point to me of
shots at D4.
having a beta that isn't the whole game, because half the point of it is to test things like the economy and so on, and you can't know how that will fall out unless you've got the whole end game and everything in there. We need to have the whole end game and everything. What won't be in the beta necessarily, or rather will probably come during the beta, is we're going to be integrating Path of Exile 1 League mechanics and things like that back in over time.
Curious.
We don't necessarily need...
Like Heist and Betrayal, maybe? Would Betrayal still be around? Or Expedition? I wonder... Ooh, that's a fun video topic. Which mechanics are going to be in PoE 2 to start? And which ones won't be? That's a fun topic to look at.
Every one of those to be in the beta when we start, to be able to get good feedback from that.
Nice.
But we certainly need at least the campaign and the end game and everything all through there to be able to see how things go. And of course, the beta is our last chance to actually, make sure that all that stuff is good before, we no longer we can't exactly take items away once the beta has ended. So therefore, we have to make sure that we're getting all our economic testing correct during the beta period.
So we will have the chance in the beta to test the end game.
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, okay, nice. Can you give us a little teaser for the end game?
So we're not going to announce anything about it, but what I will say is that it's still ultimately going to be maps, but
Nice.
the whole in-game situation, I guess, like everything around that, we'll still have to announce.
Okay, so the Atlas might be gone, might be out. Maybe they're waiting for... Zana's totally going to come back in PoE 2. It's going to be maps. It's going to be the Atlas. Zana's going to come back. Totally. I also saw an idea in the comments of the last React for the IGN interview. This one's already way better. Just by the way, sorry IGN, that it will be maps again, but we'll be traveling via ship to each of the maps. So it won't be the Atlas. It'll be literally it will be islands. Just like that, what we've seen in Act 4, how you're traveling to all these islands on the map. That's going to be the end game of Path of Exile 2, except there's going to be hundreds of these islands you can sail to. It's a pretty cool concept. I like it.
But ultimately, it's still going to be like, the maps that you know and love with crafting of them and all that sort of stuff.
Great.
Like that's going on. We definitely, that to us is fundamental DNA of Path of Exile and something that we want to make sure we do.
Perfect.
Nice. So, Exile 2 will be released on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, I guess.
Crossplay.
Do you talk or think about crossplay?
Let's go.
It's absolutely something that we're very keen to do.
That's
we still
one
have to
win
work out all the
P4
stuff
has
around
over
it,
PoE.
but like crossplay, I think would be very, very beneficial. So I'm very keen myself.
Okay, nice. I think this is one point that is very important, especially for console players to have one economy with the PC players.
Right, for sure.
I think you managed to simplify the new skill system greatly in PoE 2 compared to PoE 1. But at the same time, you don't reduce the complexity of it, so it's still complex.
Yeah.
And
Streamlining
is
it a
it
bit.
something you are trying to do with every mechanic, like crafting in Path of Exile 2?
So, I mean, basically, my opinion on complexity is that it's very important that things are easy to use and they don't put like roadblocks in your way. But it isn't necessary to remove depth. Like a new player gets turned off by when things are annoying, they don't understand what's going on. But I don't think there's anything inherently complicated about just having a lot of options. So I still like to provide a lot of options, which means there's a lot of interesting combinations you can do. But I don't see that to be the same thing as complexity. Complexity is whether the system is hard to use or not.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting when you look at something like the skill tree, right? Like people open the skill tree and it's like this huge thing, and they look at that and think, oh, it's so complicated. But actually, there's nothing more simple to use than the Path of Exile skill tree, right? Like everyone immediately understands how to use it. It's just a question of what skills do I allocate, right? And as I said, I don't see that as complexity. So then when it comes to crafting, like you asked, once again, like I think that Path of Exile, due to the fact that we've added so many crafting systems over time and things have kind of accreted like this, it means that crafting in PoE 1 is sort of complicated because everything's like a little bit, the way everything works is not really consistent. There's a few issues there. So I think it's possible to make it not complicated while...
Okay, I do know that they're removing the master bench, though, the crafting bench, which is the least complicated aspect of PoE crafting. And they might be keeping in all the other convoluted ones, like fossil crafting, essence spam, other stuff, right? Chaos orbs. They're changing the way chaos orbs work a little bit. So, very curious to hear.
Not removing any depth. And that is what I'm hoping to achieve with PoE 2, is we
Keep
still have
depth,
lots of options, there's still lots of things to think
complexity.
about, but it's still easy to use, like easier to use than it is in PoE 1. And that's kind of, I guess, the overall view.
Easier, but not less depth.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the gameplay shown at ExileCon looked too slow for many players.
Woo! Jonathan instantly laughing.
I guess you know the feedback. Can you take away some of the players' fears that they don't want be able to shred hordes of monsters in Path of Exile 2 in short time? Or will Path of Exile 2 be just that, so
This guy has no chill.
it's much slower?
I mean, as I said, I guess on this issue, I guess I just don't see things the same way. Like, my goal is not to make it so that the game is slower. The goal is to make it so there's actually interesting interaction between skills. As long as we're achieving that, then it's okay. So in the Druid demo, we sort of took care to do some sort of higher level gameplay. There's a lot more going on. If you have a look at like rampaging around, things like this, the stuff you can do, you can certainly be very fast. But at the same time, I don't want it to turn into is the whole like 200 projectiles a second like kind of thing that you get where there's just like the screen is entirely covered, you can't see what the hell is going on.
I hate that too, Jonathan, but some PoE players absolutely adore it. I do understand where he's coming from. That's not a game. That's like a simulation at that point, So I get it. I really get it. And that's why it's good that they're keeping PoE 1 in place.
Like this kind of stuff, so it doesn't need to be slow in order to not have this kind of thing going on. And honestly, this kind of stuff makes the game very unapproachable. Like when you see on a stream, like this kind of thing.
I've heard that.
What the hell even is going on in this game? Like I don't know. Like I want to make sure there's actually some visual.
I have a coworker who refuses to play PoE because he's seen a few videos of, for example, Asmongold playing the Ward Loop character where just the Scion is blasting crap. I don't think it was a Scion. I think he was a Pathfinder. Blasting stuff all over the screen. Can't see anything. He doesn't see that as gameplay. He just sees that as an absolute mess. And it's not fun to some people, and it doesn't attract new players to the game. So I do see where Jonathan is coming from. The Druid gameplay showcased, the PoE 2 gameplay as it will probably be showcased in the beta next year is going to be much better at attracting a new audience to PoE, and people who will end up loving the depth of the game will not play unless they can play PoE 2. They won't play PoE 1.
Clarity and some interesting fun mechanics and things like that. As I said, I don't think the game needs to be slower is not the word I would use for that. Just more I guess there's stuff, there's things you can respond to. The boss doesn't melt in 1 second, but instead, you can still do some interesting combos. And as I said, the stuff you just saw with the Druid, I'm hoping you can see, some of the stuff that we can do there.
Yeah. For all watching this interview, we got this Druid demo, and it looked much faster for me personally. So, so last question for this interview, because I think we are a little bit short in time. Trading is a big part of Path of Exile 1 and probably Path of Exile 2 as well.
The trade question.
Are you planning on somehow integrating trading more into the game, like with a overlay or
they're going to take a hard stance on this.
Not necessarily. Honestly, I feel like a website is actually an easier way to search for items. Like anything we would put in the game client is likely to be less actually user-friendly. But there might be a few other changes we can make to sort of improve things just with regard to the flow of that stuff. But if we do that, I suspect that those changes would be in PoE 1 as well. They're kind of platform things rather than game things as far as I see them. But ultimately, it's still going to be like, similar things where you have, public stash tabs and things like that. You can search them online,
so no changes to trading.
And be able to do some trade stuff after that. That's still our trade philosophy, if you know what I mean.
I understand that. I'm fine with the current trade philosophy. I don't need it to be automated in any way. I know tons of people absolutely despise it and would like that. I'm fine with the weight of trade.
Okay. Yeah. So, I add one last question, if it's okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about gold in Path of Exile? So, do we need it in endgame?
Well, I'm hoping not.
Hoping not. You are the decider, Jonathan. You can make it so we don't need gold. Come on. Items are where the value should be. Trading currency. That's what I like, not gold.
Tension behind the balance of gold is that it's something more for early game, fixing problems, using vendors and so on early, and then as you get towards the end of the game, you're going to be wanting to use other currency items and trading for other currency items. So I don't imagine, and I don't particularly want players to be trading gold between each other. It's more that they'll be using chaos, they'll still be using chaos and things like this for that kind of trade, the gold will be more for just vendors and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you for the questions or for the answers of my questions. Thank you for the opportunity, and I wish you a very, very good stay and a better flight home later this week.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much.
Awesome. That was a fantastic interview. I think Lowepe did a wonderful job. That was his first interview, and it was his first English video for Path of Exile as well. Fantastic job, man. I enjoyed it greatly. It was a better interview than the IGN one, and one of the best that I've seen with Chris, with Jonathan, poking on not only PoE 2, but a little bit on PoE 1 as well. So if you haven't seen it already, make sure you go and check out Lowepe's channel, especially if you're a German speaker. He has a ton of Path of Exile content. I really enjoyed it. I think that's a great one, and I hope that we're about to see a ton more content drop about Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1, because this week they're at PAX West in Seattle. So we should be awaiting some more interview-style content with both Jonathan and Chris. So if you haven't already, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this content, and I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone who watches these videos, and especially everyone who supports me on YouTube as a member or on Patreon as a patron. You are making this channel a huge success, and I cannot wait to see what happens as we get closer and closer to Path of Exile 2. To those of you who have watched until this ultimate moment, Tala Moana.